I've watched it happen on TV a million times, and you have no idea what it was like being that close. That morning I got in early at 7 o'clock. It was an absolutely spectacular morning, crystal clear, gorgeous. I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard this loud bang. It was such a strange sound to me that I got up and I went over. I kind of ran over to the windows because it just didn't sound right. And that's when I got to the windows, that's when the first tower had been struck, and it was devastating to look at. I mean, my first instinct was to stop praying. There was just paper flying out, black smoke, and flames just pouring out from every possible venue on that building, and it was like so shocking to see that. The first plane hit in the front of, so the hole wasn't visible. All I knew was there was a large explosion. Didn't know what the cause was at all. My instinct was, get out of the building. It takes a long time to get out of that building. I mean, just to get onto the 68th floor, you have to take 2 separate sets of elevators to get up that floor, that high. I guess I was around the 40th floor when the plane hit my building.
How did you know?
I didn't. When the plane hit the building, I actually thought it somehow a piece of the other building had fallen onto ours, because even at that point, there was no announcement that there was a plane that had hit the buildings. We just kept going down, going down, going down. And it took probably a good 45 minutes. There was no panicking, there was no screaming, there was no yelling. Everyone was very polite to one another. You know, I saw like the best of New York during that day. I really did. The subway station that I came up on was on the east side of the South Tower. And I vividly remember walking up each stair, and as I'm starting to see ground level, right in front of me is a smoldering airplane engine. That, as soon as I saw that, I mean, I grew up next to the airport my whole life. I lived in Warwick. As soon as I saw that airplane engine, it all came rushing towards me like what was happening, that it had to have been a plane that had hit that building. And as I went to look up at the building, which was mine, the South Tower, it was totally engulfed in flames. I was pretty much in shock at that point, but my first instinct was to try to get a hold of my husband and my kids so that they would know that I was okay. People were just standing in groups around the outside of the building, and I was trying to figure out what to do next. And I could not look up anymore because people were just jumping out of the building, and I knew that if I got caught up in that it would kind of paralyze me from action, and I knew I needed to get myself out of there. I had to focus myself, I really did.
Yeah.
Because it was so devastating to watch. I had never witnessed that kind of disaster. Once I made it to the shoreline, I never looked back, and I walked my way up to Penn Station, and it was closed. So I'm standing there, and I guess I must have been in shock. These 2 ladies walked up to me that I'd never met before. I told them that I had been in the building, and they were like, "Oh my God, we can't believe you already made it to this point." They said, "Well, we live in New Jersey, and we're taking the ferry to Weehawken." So I stood in line for quite a while with these 2 ladies, and we got onto the ferry. I was on the phone with my husband, and my girlfriend, Kathleen, had sent my husband and her husband to her brother's house in Connecticut because he knew the back roads, and got to me in New Jersey. Picked me up probably around 11:30 that night and drove me back home. I really haven't changed. I mean, I know it's impacted my whole family. I know, I mean, when I walked up those stairs, my husband and my kids were waiting up for me, and we just all hugged for the longest time. The whole issue of terrorism is to make people fearful, to stop them from doing their normal day-to-day things and live in fear. And I refuse to do that. Because if you do, then they've won. They achieved their goal, and I refuse to allow that to happen.